Due to my boyfriend's joke, I was involved in a car accident, yet I saw a photo of him with another girl on his Facebook. I realized he never liked me and was only with me to exact revenge. I chose to release myself and stop clinging, but he broke down, repeatedly begging me not to abandon him. The surrounding air was filled with a pungent, unpleasant odor. I awoke from sharp pain, realizing I had been in a car accident. Today marks the 5th year of my relationship with Julian. I prepared a table full of dishes, waiting from morning until night, only to receive a call from Julian's friend, a pleasant female voice, though unusually anxious. Julian drank excessively and just vomited blood. Sister-in-law, come quickly to pick him up. I was so frantic that I overlooked the fact that there were so many of them. Why wait for me? 1 second before the oncoming truck collided with me, I received a video. In it, Julian reclined boredly on the sofa, while his surrounding friends laughed and placed bets. I told you, she cares so much about Julian, she must be frantic right now. I bet 20 minutes it's 20 kilometers from the neighborhood. I bet 10 minutes, haha. Julian remained indifferent, showing no interest in the matter. The beauty beside him leaned against him, and he smiled as he wrapped his arm around her waist. I felt an intense physical chill. I had left in a hurry wearing only pajamas, and driving too fast. The cold wind struck me, causing uncontrollable shivers. The next second, I collided head-on with the oncoming truck. The immense impact caused me to lose consciousness instantly. I was thrown off the barrier into a desolate, pitch-black area, my legs numb, and my entire body aching. With great effort, I dialed Julian's phone. The incessant beeping struck my heart with each second. Julian, answer the phone. He didn't. I made a second call. My consciousness began to fade gradually, and on the third ring, it was abruptly disconnected. Like Julian, impatient, Nina, stop pestering me, I'm annoyed. In my memory, Julian uttered these words with a detached expression and indifferent eyes, as if speaking to a stranger. Yet, we weren't like this before. This is likely the 12th year I pursued Julian, but we haven't had a proper conversation in a long time, not since that incident. In middle school, Julian moved next door. Back then, I only dared to steal glances from my bedroom window at the beautiful child delivering items to my house for the adults. I wasn't sure if this qualified as childhood sweethearts, too timid to speak to him. A rainy day after a monthly exam in my sophomore year marked my first face-to-face encounter with Julian. I squatted under the guardhouse eaves to avoid the rain, feeling deeply melancholic. There seemed to be a lone ant, lost and directionless, mirroring my own plight. I reached out to shield it from the falling rain. It was then that Julian appeared before me, still in his school uniform, its hem dampened by rain, with some droplets sharing my own hidden intentions falling on his beautiful face, wetting his lashes. He seemed to have run hurriedly, breathing heavily. That was the first time he called my name. I had assumed he didn't even know I existed. He said he didn't see me take my usual path after school, thought I'd been picked up, and only learned I was still at school without an umbrella upon returning home. He apologized to me, and I waved my hands repeatedly, insisting I should thank him for coming to get me. We walked side by side as he tilted the umbrella toward me, apologizing again for rushing out without a second umbrella. We stood apart, half his body exposed outside the umbrella. I hurriedly pushed it toward him, closing the gap, his youthful warmth seeping through the fabric to me, slightly burning. That day, we talked a lot, and he remarked that though we were neighbors, I always avoided him. My face warmed under his clear gaze. I fabricated a casual lie. Unsure if he believed it, I decided I should treat myself better and asked if we could walk home together from then on, applauding my courage each day thereafter. The school bell became my favorite melody, for turning around, I'd see Julian leaning by the back door waiting for me. He'd always grumble about my slow packing, yet naturally took my backpack as I ran to him, sometimes bringing my favorite milk or the MP3 I'd long begged for. After the college entrance exams, we visited the sea. The rising waves crashed against the rocks, glinting in the sunlight. Look, the waves are glowing. Nina, it's us who are glowing. Julian struggled to hold on to his wind-blown hat, utterly disheveled, yet he still smiled at me, his eyes sparkling with confidence, gentleness, and strength. I threw myself into his arms, and his hat was lost entirely. The hospital called on the third day of our trip. Julian's parents had been in a car accident and were in critical condition. He cried in front of me for the first time, a vulnerability I had never witnessed. We booked flights, and I stayed by his side incessantly. I didn't know how to console him. I was heartbroken too, but no one could fathom his pain. I held him in my arms, his tears soaking my collar as he repeatedly asked, "What should I do?" until he finally succumbed to exhaustion and fell asleep. Then my mother called, and though I sensed she had something to say, she only stammered, asking if I was with Julian. My eyelids twitched violently, an inexplicable panic rising. My mother said it was my father who drove into them. A string in my heart snapped, nearly making me scream. My parents divorced when I was young. My mother, disdainful of my father's inability to earn money and his weak character, took me away. This time, he returned to see me. She said my father had always missed me, and only after my exams did she permit him to visit. While evading a large truck, he collided head-on with Julian's parents' car, sending them off a bridge into the riverbed. How could this happen? Why did it happen? I clamped my mouth shut, but tears slipped through my fingers onto the dress Julian gave me as a graduation gift. I could no longer face him and locked myself in my room. Not until the funeral day did I see him again. He was no longer the confident, spirited youth of my memory. He seemed utterly exhausted, his chin covered in stubble, head bowed, letting the rain pummel him. He grew silent, an aura of gloom enveloping him. Many came to console him, but he remained expressionless and unresponsive. I didn't know what he'd endured these days, and I suddenly deeply regretted not staying by his side. He noticed me and looked up, our eyes meeting. I flinched. His gaze was cold and devoid of emotion, and in that instant, I realized the ever-gentle, often smiling youth was gone forever. He had changed. Upon waking, I heard only the sound of machines. My injuries weren't severe, just a cast on my leg, restricting movement. The nurse, a charming young girl, said I'd been unconscious for a week before waking. While my phone was being repaired, the nurse chatted with me extensively. She said someone called emergency services and stayed until the ambulance arrived, even paying for my surgery. I was surprised, marveling at the abundance of kind people in the world. After retrieving my phone, I instinctively asked if the call logs would be lost. The nurse assured me they only replaced the screen, so nothing should be missing. The call logs remained from a week ago, and the Facebook chat still displayed my pre-accident message telling him to wait, that I'd arrive soon. I should have known it was always me clinging to him, caring for him. He didn't care where I was or what I was doing. Perhaps his greatest concern during my hospitalization was having no one to cook dinner for him. Oddly, maybe due to accident after effects, I felt no sadness. I saw a woman on his Facebook, the beauty from that video, possibly the one who called me. Julian never posted on Facebook, and when I asked, he offered no explanation. Her presence there suggested she was significant to Julian. At this thought, I laughed. Were there truly people important to Julian? I laughed more at myself, still swayed by such jests after 5 years. I didn't see Julian all summer. Before my freshman year began, I left my summer job earnings in his mailbox. I didn't encounter him at school, but I always saw him on Facebook, handsome, with an alluring melancholic charm that drew many girls' attention. He frequented bars or attended various parties with diversely dressed people. He gained notoriety, yet grew less like himself, never refusing drinks from girls, letting them pour until he was thoroughly inebriated. He received a substantial compensation and used it to indulge in self-destruction. Many girls even ventured into vice for the first time because of him. The strong liquor burned as it went down, clouding my mind. My ears rang with harsh, noisy music mixed with jeers. I stood unsteadily, my gaze fixed on Julian in the center. This was the first time in 2 years he reached out to me. I was elated, thinking it signaled our reconciliation. Unbeknownst to me, it was merely their prank. They'd learned Julian had a childhood sweetheart, and now malicious gazes lingered on me, making me profoundly uneasy. Julian appeared already drunk, reclining on the sofa, one hand swirling a glass, the other arm around a girl. She kept pouring him drinks, the liquid trailing down his cheek, over his collarbone, and into his shirt. He coughed from choking, his eyes reddened, yet he didn't refuse, downing glass after glass. He was long past coherence. I snatched the drink from the girl's hand and downed it, tears welling from the burn. The crowd jeered, and Julian laughed along. "Nina, do you like me that much?" He had somehow approached me, his tone tender, stirring a fleeting illusion of returning to the past. "Then, be my girlfriend." He was so close. Perhaps I was drunk too, my heart racing as it had that rainy sophomore night. I nodded. Suddenly, raucous laughter erupted around us. "Wow, she actually agreed, haha. She can accept Julian like this, so devoted. Sister-in-law, watch him, don't wake up to find another woman in bed." I wanted to protest, but Julian kissed me. I froze, utterly unsure of what to do. He held me tightly, the overpowering smell of alcohol hitting me as he kissed with fierce intensity. My breath was stolen, my head spun, all surrounding noise faded, leaving only Julian's breathing in my ears. He chuckled softly, opening his eyes to look at me, his gaze lingering. For days after that night, I was overjoyed, believing we'd reconciled and were back on track. Yet it was all my wishful thinking. Photos from that night spread wildly. Everyone knew we were together, but no one took me seriously. Julian stopped letting girls near him, and they blamed me. Walking down the road, I was doused with a basin of filthy water. Girls upstairs laughed gleefully as the liquid soaked me, my hair clinging to my face, the vile stench making me nauseous. My new clothes were ruined. A crowd gathered, whispering behind covered noses. I clutched my chest in embarrassment, a sting rising in my nose. Julian stood at the crowd's rear, watching me with a detached gaze. My grievances burst forth, tears streaming uncontrollably. I rushed toward him, only to see him step back as I neared, frowning at me with disgust in his eyes. I stopped approaching, clutching my hem tightly. Grievances are a privilege of the loved. What right do the unloved have to feel wronged? In that moment, I understood clearly, regardless of why he confessed, Julian didn't love me. During rehabilitation, I couldn't help noticing the couple beside me. The boy had fractured bones from a fall downstairs, and his girlfriend came daily to care for and support his recovery. Sometimes I saw him cry, saying he felt he burdened his girlfriend, both from modest means. She now worked while tending to him. He was consumed with guilt, even contemplating giving up at one point. The girl had a gentle disposition. The only time I saw her upset was when he suggested breaking up, though not quite anger. She brought a lunchbox, silently set the prepared meal before him, and after a long pause, asked if he was certain. Unable to restrain himself, the boy cried before her for the first time, speaking haltingly, unloading all the pent-up frustration and grievances from that period. She didn't console him as usual, waiting until he calmed before speaking. Words carry weight. Once spoken, you must bear their consequences. Uttering falsehoods against your heart comes at a cost. I don't know if they reconciled afterward. While hospitalized, I contacted a landlord and rented a small apartment, intending to move out of Julian's place. There wasn't much to move. He rarely stayed there, leaving me mostly alone, but familiar scenes stirred memories deep within, of waiting for Julian by myself. That night, Julian's message woke me. He sent an address, telling me to go there. My hands and feet felt cold, and I realized the air conditioning wasn't on. Staring at the message for a while, I suddenly felt like laughing. I'd been hospitalized for a month, and Julian, as if dead, sent no messages, utterly unconcerned about my whereabouts. Yet I, roused every midnight, was summoned to various places. Whether Julian genuinely needed me or was merely toying with me, I complied willingly, laughably believing I could change him, when it was I who was altered. Is this fun, Julian? If you don't want to come, fine. I don't want to go, nor will I in the future. Let's break up. Saying it, I found, was surprisingly easy. I expected heartache, but oddly felt nothing. Perhaps I'd long felt this way. Perhaps when I accepted his confession, I truly liked him, but that affection, tinged with youthful naivety, had long been depleted by the present him. Even seeing his messages no longer sparked past joy, only numbness. Perhaps sensing my resolve, no further messages came for a long time. Disturbed, I lost all sleepiness and went downstairs for a walk, indeed, misfortune strikes relentlessly. Finally out of the hospital, I encountered a robbery at my doorstep, though I wasn't the target. I intended to stay uninvolved. A patient like me couldn't help but the surrounded figure seemed familiar. Hey, Nina, if I catch you clinging to Julian again, you'll regret it. Such incidents were frequent during my university days. Julian didn't take me seriously, so others disdained me even more. Girls from outside school often ambushed me. Aggressive, I knew resisting was my only defense against worse torment. But they outnumbered me. Fighting them yielded no advantage. Passing students ignored it, hurrying by, wary of getting involved. My hair was yanked into disarray, my face scratched bloody by their long nails, yet I dared not seek Julian's help, fearing his look of disgust once more. Why must girls torment each other? What's it worth, so many ganging up on one? Fight me if you dare. A flamboyant voice halted the scene. That's when I saw Vincent, red-haired, standing against the light. His legendary feats were universally known. On the first day of school, irked by seniors bullying newcomers, he smashed one into a concussion with a basketball, later single-handedly fending off thugs summoned by a senior for revenge. His eccentric, willful nature deterred challengers for a time. Unaware of this, the outside girls sized Vincent up, smiling, their earlier arrogance softened. This wretch clings to my sister's man. We're just teaching her a lesson, little brother, must you interfere? The girl tried to continue, but Vincent's hurled basketball silenced her. Calling her a wretch, you don't seem much better. Come bully at our school again, and this basketball won't miss. The girls left, cursing. I collapsed to the ground, drained. A fresh-scented jacket draped over me. I realized my shirt had been torn open. The warmth enveloping me made my nose sting, and Vincent seemed surprised I'd cry. Flustered, he lost his earlier bravado. Hey, don't cry, they're gone. Scared off? Why are you crying? I'd been weeping quietly, but seeing that wild tuft of red hair darting before me, I burst into loud sobs. Vincent yelped, wrapping the jacket around my face, muffling my cries with its fresh scent. Stunned by Vincent's actions, I forgot to cry. What are you doing? It's filthy. Where's it? Dirty, miss? I just got it this afternoon. Haven't even hit the court. Vincent's face crumpled in anger, his red hair making him comically endearing. I burst into laughter through tears, missing his stunned, reddening ears. I hadn't mistaken him. The surrounded figure was Vincent. Instinctively, without time to think, I stood beside him. Oh, really? Calling a woman to help? Shameless. The three, fierce and menacing, eyed us with ill intent. What's the noise? You're just jealous. Vincent seemed fearless, his taunting tone as provoking as ever. But they held knives. Now wasn't the time for bravado. I tugged Vincent's sleeve, signaling restraint. I've called the police. Leave if you don't want to be caught. Little girl, mind your own business. This is personal. Police won't help. Then we run. I pulled Vincent, but 2 steps in, my unhealed legs failed me, and I fell fresh from an accident. Why play tough? Watch me. Vincent winked at me and turned to face them. True to his school bully reputation, he was a skilled fighter. They were no match, fleeing under his taunting stare. Vincent shook sweat from his hair and offered his hand. Having watched this display of violent artistry from the ground, I said my legs were numb. TCH, delicate. Vincent squatted before me. I didn't mention my home was just upstairs. He carried me aimlessly. Every time I've met you, you were a mess, and I helped. Didn't expect you to save me today, thanks. Though he'd handled those thugs himself, I'd done nothing. Vincent, did you take me to the hospital? He didn't reply, but I knew it had to be him, the perennial good soul. In my most fearful, helpless moment, it was indeed him who saved me. As before, later, no one troubled me again, surely because of Vincent. In the hospital, I thought of properly thanking my savior. Why not tell me? Who needs your thanks? Don't you have a boyfriend? Vincent kicked a roadside pebble, but I caught his muttered words. No boyfriend anymore. Huh? We broke up. Congratulate me, Vincent. He turned to me, expression blank, as if still processing. I leapt off his back. To celebrate my breakup and thank you for saving me, I'll treat you to a meal, let's go now. The night wind chilled me, yet it felt as if a burden had lifted. I felt an unprecedented ease. Vincent stood still, realizing we weren't that close. I waved awkwardly. If you don't want to go, forget it. Go. Why wouldn't I? You're treating. Vincent ran toward me, his smile striking under the streetlight. I'd offered him a meal before, it seemed, but Julian called, the meal fell through, and Vincent never sought me again. TCH, petty. Unaware, I cursed him inwardly. Vincent spun happily twice. So thrilled for a meal? Of course you've owed me this for 5 years. So vindictive. My phone rang, then Julian's friend, likely another prank. I hung up, blocked it, feeling relieved. Another call, I blocked it too, but they persisted, switching numbers, irritating me. Haven't they tired of pranking me? Stop calling, I've broken up with Julian. Sister-in-law, come quick, Julian's really in bad shape, he won't listen to anyone. The line was chaotic. Someone shouted Julian's name amid clinking glasses. Another barked for Julian not to die on his turf. My heart sank. Julian had always disregarded his health. Sister-in-law, no lie, he keeps calling your name, come persuade him. That person likely didn't grasp my situation with Julian. I couldn't sway him. Countless times I'd urged him drink less, avoid dangerous company, visit his parents. I'd pleaded so often, I grew weary of it myself. I was merely his tool for petty revenge when bored. My words held no weight with him, a truth it took me 5 years to fully grasp. I meant to hang up, but Vincent's cautious gaze stung me. I'd once looked at Julian the same way, hoping he'd help when girls harassed me, stand firm amid friends' doubts. Eventually, I could only hope he'd stop harming himself. Don't you know how risky it is to summon a girl there at night? I'm no longer obliged, he can do as he pleases. It's not my concern. Call again, and I'll report it to the police. After that, I powered off my phone. Silence returned as I strove to calm myself, overwhelmed by a flood of unhappy memories. I'm not truly brave. I fear walking home in rain, entering bars, or reporting bullying, yet this timid me endured hospital solitude, physical and mental anguish, and recovery strain without a single tear. So, dinner, are we still going? Yes. Why not? You've owed me this meal for 5 years. The worst stayed in those 5 years, henceforth, I'm anew. The company granted me 6 months leave to recover. During this time, Vincent often appeared, inviting me out under various pretexts, ostensibly to relax and banish bad memories. I knew what he meant at school. Nearly everyone knew of Julian's clingy, unshakable girlfriend. Vincent, I'm not that fragile, don't worry. Fine, you're the bravest in the world. I'm the one needing company, pity me, let's eat that. He was so childish, even his comfort was half-hearted. Vincent seemed a carefree child, guided by his daily cheer. I genuinely began to feel happier. Soon came a less joyful day. I had to pack my things from the place I'd shared with Julian. Lately, I'd received items, sometimes old painkillers, sometimes childhood hair clips I'd lost, all tossed in the trash. Vincent offered to join me. I didn't refuse, asking him to wait downstairs. Looking at him, I felt braver to face it. Unexpectedly, Julian was there, a place he rarely visited, even once in 6 months. He looked awful, hair disheveled, eyes shadowed. We remained, as countless times before, speechless. He smoked on the sofa while I packed. The second before I opened the door, he spoke, Nina, his voice hoarse. He kept calling my name, tender as during his confession, but now, it only repulsed me. Why break up? Isn't it fine to go on like this? Julian's voice was soft, his intense stare finally showing change. I think he hated me, binding me with my guilt, tormenting me, making me unlike myself, dragging me into his downfall. Julian, it's you who's given up, not me. We're done, stop disgusting me with those things. Julian stood abruptly, laughing, advancing step by step. Is it Vincent? Have you fallen for him? It's not about him. I just won't hurt myself with you anymore, Julian. I owe you nothing. Choking on those words, it felt as if years of inner shackles tore open, revealing my scarred heart. Perhaps you hate me, but Julian, I've always been innocent. You shouldn't have used my affection to harm me. Let's not meet again, that's it. Julian gripped me tightly, eyes reddening with pain, yet he still chose to sadden me. It's Vincent, isn't it? I told him back then, and he hasn't given up. Nina, you can't like him. We've made it 5 years, don't abandon me, let's keep going, please. He knew nothing, yet everything blind to my pain, yet unwilling to free me. Why? Watching Julian sob uncontrollably, I was transported back to post-exam days. His helpless, despairing tears moved me. If magic existed, my wish then was for his troubles to vanish. But why? He didn't shed his troubles. Instead, he pulled me into the abyss. Why, Julian, must I join you? For years, you've unloaded negativity on me, knowing all along I was innocent. Julian trembled, clutching my hem. But what did you do? You ignored your friend's scorn, let your admirers bully me even, due to your prank. I crashed. I showed him my phone, the full record of my hospitalization. Julian stopped crying, staring blankly but not taking it. I knew it was his nightmare, but wasn't it mine too? I was hospitalized a month. You didn't know. I called you after the crash, but you didn't answer. I was terrified, yet laughably thought, good it's a prank, or I couldn't reach you in time. Saying this bared my wounds, salting them anew. No, it can't be, Nina, how could you? Julian, in agony, shoved my phone away. I gave him no chance, playing the video, letting him hear my pain, struggle, and renewal clearly. Julian crumpled to the floor, clutching his hair, head buried in his arms. I'm sorry, Nina, I'm sorry. His broken apologies I no longer cared to hear. Julian, though you destroyed that once beautiful youth, I don't hate you. Before leaving, I glanced at this place I'd lived in for 3 years, bidding it farewell. In the elevator, I bumped into a hurried Vincent. Seeing me, he sighed in relief. Once again, he amused me. What's so funny? I was worried you'd be bullied. Oh, leave it to me. He likely didn't grasp how heavy a girl's luggage is. Sure enough, Vincent yelped, shocked. What? Can't do it? I can. Why not? Next time, let's use a cart. Later, I asked what Julian had said to him then. Vincent didn't tell me, smiling cryptically, finally boasting, that fool didn't cherish you. I got the prize. After the break, I resumed work. Friends, surprised, said I was utterly changed from before. Oh, probably too happy. Look, that guy's here again, picking me up on time daily, bringing food. When will I find true love? Ignoring my colleague's teasing, I shot her a don't envy me too much look. Stepping out, I saw a flamboyantly dressed Vincent leaning on the car, waiting. I ran over, touching his hair. You dyed it red again. How's it look? My charm handles it any time. Great. Red truly suited him, bright and joyful like him. Really, I wanted to tell my past self, see, setbacks happen, but I finally got him. What did you say? Nothing. Later, I found a letter in the mailbox. Nina, I never hated you. I always knew you were innocent. My confession wasn't impulsive or vengeful. I truly liked you, always did. Binding you with your guilt was my mistake. I haven't said thank you to you yet. Thank you, Nina. Thank you for not giving up on me in the past 5 years. Thank you for liking me at that time. You will be very happy without me in the future. I'm sorry for causing you so much pain. Forget me. I hope you will be happy and blessed every day in the future. Vincent's perspective. Nina wouldn't guess our first encounter was at school start. Seniors bullied freshmen. I spotted her, worried, hiding behind the crowd. I had no intent to intervene, but as they neared her, I hurled a ball at the leader who knew he'd be so frail. Sadly, when I turned back, Nina was gone, surely scared off by me. I felt a brief regret, just a moment. I'd do it again. That guy abused his student council role to harass girls plenty. For a long stretch, I didn't see her again. Rumors swirled of an art institute girl chasing Julian. I didn't like him, he exuded an off-putting vibe. I met Nina again, bullied by outside girls. She was brave, they couldn't break her, but her pain, her seeming, pierced me that instant. I scared them off. She'd fought fiercely without fear, yet cried facing me. I'd scared her after all. She said my clothes were dirty. They weren't at all. Then she smiled, nose red, eyes teary, laughing. I forgot to defend my close cleanliness, just stared. She made me a fool. Hope she missed my warming ears. I tried every way to get close, but each time a call pulled her away. Only when Julian confronted me did I learn that rumored girl was Nina. Julian's words angered me. Nina only chases me. Don't waste your effort, she won't like you. He didn't respect Nina at all. I warned him to stop letting those girls hurt her, or I'd thrash him each time. Truthfully, I was sad, seeing how much she liked Julian. I stopped seeking her, only warning those sneaky girls trailing Nina. When no one bothered her anymore, I lost my pretext to protect her. The day Nina crashed is one I'd never relive. Blood everywhere. I called her repeatedly as she slipped into unconsciousness. The car door wouldn't budge. I panicked. Thankfully, the ambulance arrived fast. Her phone showed that unanswered outgoing call. I visited the hospital every few days but never dared enter, afraid she wouldn't recognize me, or had forgotten me. Every meeting was her in need. Never imagined she'd one day shield me. Those thugs were just posturing. I aimed to shine before Nina. I learned Nina saw through Julian. They broke up. That day was my luckiest. Nina and I grew closer. The day we got together, I readied my hair red. It was also telling my past, sad self. Setbacks come, but see, I'm the one who won Nina in the end.